It's honestly pretty wild to think how quickly things evolve in the software world.
Oh, definitely.
Like one minute we're all excited about, better autocomplete,
Yeah,
and now there's this whole concept of vibe coding, making waves. It feels like a really fundamental shift.
it really does feel that way.
Yeah,
The term itself, popularized by Andrzej Karpathy, it sort of points to a future where building software involves less wrestling with the nitty-gritty syntax
right.
and more about, articulating the big picture,
Yeah.
telling an AI what you want, and it handles those lower-level details.
Okay.
It's about focusing on the what and why of your application and letting the AI figure out the how.
Okay, so the vibe isn't just like having a good coding playlist going, though that probably doesn't hurt, right?
Probably not. No, it's about using natural language, basically your own words, to tell an AI what you want,
Uh-huh.
and it then generates the actual code right there in your development environment.
Exactly. Yeah, think of it like having this super skilled, always available coding partner who just gets plain English.
Hmm.
You describe the functionality you need, maybe a new feature or some specific kind of data processing.
Right.
And the AI, built right into your IDE, it just produces the necessary code. This opens up possibilities for like incredibly rapid prototyping
Right.
and maybe even building entire applications from, relatively simple natural language descriptions.
That sounds like a huge leap. Can you give us maybe a more concrete example
Sure.
how this might work in a real-world scenario?
Certainly. Yeah, one of the sources we looked at, the rise of AI-powered IDEs, it gives a pretty clear illustration.
Okay.
So imagine you need to create a way for your application to verify user logins.
Standard stuff, yeah.
Right. Traditionally, you'd be writing all the code to handle the incoming request, queries a database, compare the password with the stored one, send back a confirmation or denial.
Yep.
You know the drill.
Yep. Lots of boilerplate sometimes. Exactly. With vibe coding, you could potentially just instruct your AI agent inside the IDE, create an API endpoint that validates user credentials, just like that.
Wow.
And the AI would then generate the underlying code, the specific functions, the database interactions, maybe even some security measures based on that single instruction.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. So what are the key platforms, the tools making this vibe coding approach actually happen? We came across a few big names in our research.
Absolutely. So leading the charge in this space, arguably, is Windsurf.
Windsurf, right.
It's an AI integrated development environment, an IDE that's gained quite a bit of attention, especially with its recent acquisition by OpenAI.
Yes, for a massive, what was it? $3 billion.
That's the number, 3 billion. That figure alone really speaks volumes about the perceived potential here. Yeah, $3 billion, that's definitely a statement. What can Windsurf actually do that makes it so valuable?
Well, Windsurf's core strength seems to lie in its cascade system.
Yeah, and this isn't just about looking at the current file you have open. It apparently gets a deep understanding of your entire code base.
Okay.
Combines that with advanced AI tools, and it keeps this real-time awareness of what you're doing. This lets it provide exceptionally relevant suggestions and even anticipate your intentions with its super complete feature.
Super complete. Got it.
And it's designed as an agentic AI,
Agentic, meaning...
meaning it has a greater degree of autonomy. So unlike traditional code completion that might just suggest the next word or line,
Right.
an agentic AI can understand a higher level goal you give it and then independently generate significant chunks of code. It could even potentially modify multiple files to achieve that goal.
So it can take on much bigger coding tasks, not just suggesting the next semicolon or something.
Precisely. Yeah. Windsurf offers these things called flows to help make the interaction between the developer and the AI feel seamless.
Okay.
This includes features like editing multiple files at once, suggesting and even running terminal commands right from the IDE, identifying and helping debug errors, and that inline AI coding, where you use natural language to generate or tweak specific code snippets.
Right.
They even have Windsurf previews for live in-IDE editing of websites and streamlined like one-click deployment to production.
Wow, that's quite the feature set.
It is, and it's worth noting, before OpenAI bought them, Windsurf was actually built to work with various different large language models, not just one.
Ah, interesting. So that's Windsurf. What other significant players are out there in this AI-assisted coding field?
Another important platform is Cursor.
Cursor.
It's also an AI-powered coding environment. Its
Okay.
composer feature is particularly interesting. It lets you have more of a collaborative conversation with the AI.
A conversation.
Yeah, and actually the Arstern article, Building with Vibe Coding, Lessons from Real Projects, It really emphasizes that when you're using tools like Cursor, giving clear, concise instructions is key. You get better results that way.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, even with AI, right?
Pretty much. So instead of a vague request, something specific like create a function that returns a user profile in JSON format. That'll give you much more targeted and useful code.
That highlights a really important point. Even with AI, clear communication of what you actually need is still essential. Are there any other tools worth mentioning for people interested in exploring this?
Yeah, definitely. Depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Replit is a great option for really quick prototyping right in your web browser.
Oh yeah, Replit's great for that. No setup needed.
Exactly. Then there's Tempo, which seems to focus more on the earlier stages, like creating project requirement docs and flow diagrams.
Okay, more planning focus.
Right. And Lovable is presented as more beginner-friendly. Apparently even includes built-in user authentication features for web apps, which can save some hassle.
Okay, so we have the core idea, this vibe coding, and some of the main tools like Windsurf and Cursor. For someone listening is thinking, okay, I want to try this, where should they start? Are there good tutorials or resources out there?
Yeah, fortunately, the learning landscape is starting to take shape. A great entry point seems to be a YouTube video by Doc Williams. It's called How to Create Apps with AI Agents Windsurf Step-by-Step Guide.
Doc Williams. Okay, a step-by-step guide sounds perfect.
It's very practical. Yeah. A real hands-on introduction to actually using Windsurf.
So what are some of the key steps he walks through in that tutorial?
Well, it starts with the basics, downloading and installing the Windsurf IDE itself.
Right. Yeah.
And then it guides you through opening an existing project folder. But the really fascinating part is where it shows how to use natural language, either speaking or typing, to give instructions to Windsurf.
Ah, the core idea.
Exactly. There's this one compelling example where the user actually uses a voice-to-text AI tool called Whisper
Okay.
to tell Windsurf to create a brand new React application. And it specifies the directory name Tom Nook 2.
Tom Nook 2. I
Yeah.
love it. That's memorable. So you can literally just talk to your coding environment and have it spin up a new project.
That's what the video shows, yeah. And then the tutorial moves on to generating the code for a landing page. I think it was for a blog about side hustles.
Okay.
And the user gives context, saying they want the design to look and feel kind of like Apple's websites.
Right, going for that clean aesthetic.
Yep. So by interacting with Windsurf, typing prompts right there in the app.jsx and app.css files, the AI updates the code in real time to match those design preferences.
That's pretty cool.
And then finally, the video shows how to deploy the whole generated website directly to GitHub using Windsurf's built-in terminal.
Wow. That sounds like a remarkably streamlined process, from just an idea to a live website potentially pretty quickly.
It definitely seems that way from the demo.
Are there other kinds of learning resources besides these video guides? Maybe something more text-based or theoretical?
Yes. That Arstern blog post we mentioned earlier, Building with Vibe Coding, Lessons from Real Projects, that offers some valuable insights and practical advice. It's drawn from, real-world experiences using vibe coding on actual projects.
Real-world lessons are always good. Anything specific stand out?
Yeah, one particularly important lesson they highlight is the need for continuous testing and validation, all through the development process.
QA still matters.
Absolutely. Even when an AI is generating the code, it's crucial to have rigorous testing in place. Otherwise, you can end up with a lot of technical debt or just an unreliable application.
That's a critical point. Just because an AI wrote it doesn't mean it's perfect or maintainable long term.
Precisely. And, while vibe coding emphasizes this higher level thinking, having a solid grasp of fundamental programming principles is probably still incredibly advantageous.
Right, understanding what's happening under the hood.
Exactly. And in that context, there's another resource, the Fun Programming Creative Coding Video Tutorial Series. It could be a valuable supplement.
Fun programming. Okay, sounds intriguing. What's the focus there? Is it about vibe coding?
Not directly, no. This series focuses on teaching core programming concepts, but in a really engaging and visual way using a language called processing.
Processing. For creative coding, visuals.
Yeah, exactly. So while it doesn't teach you Windsurf or Cursor directly, it introduces fundamental concepts like working with coordinates, creating animations, using variables and functions, handling user interaction.
Yeah.
The basics.
Gotcha.
Early tutorials cover things like drawing points and lines, point and line, making simple animations with random, and the draw loop, working with color, frame rates.
Okay.
This kind of foundational knowledge can really enhance your ability to understand the code the AI generates, and importantly, to troubleshoot it when things go wrong.
That analogy makes perfect sense. It's like understanding aerodynamics even if you usually fly on autopilot.
Exactly. You understand the underlying mechanics, which helps you work with the automation better and maybe fix it if needed.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about what it is, the tools, how to learn. Let's dig into the advantages. Why is there so much excitement around this vibe coding approach?
Well, the potential benefits are pretty substantial. As highlighted by both that Arstern article and the windsurf tutorial,
Mhm.
one of the biggest things is the potential for just dramatically increased speed and efficiency.
Right, getting things done faster.
Yeah. For startups, small businesses, maybe even individual creators, this could mean bringing ideas to market much, much faster and maybe with fewer resources.
So accelerating the whole development life cycle. What about accessibility for people who don't have that traditional deep programming background?
That's another key potential benefit. Absolutely. Platforms like Replit, as mentioned in the Arstern piece, seem to be empowering people without extensive coding knowledge to actually create functional web applications.
Hmm.
This could really lower the barrier to entry for software creation. Let a broader range of people build the tools they need.
Yeah, I could see that.
We also saw discussions on Reddit suggesting that, say, product managers, who often have a deep understanding of the features and the user experience, but maybe lack the advanced coding skills,
Hmm.
they could leverage vibe coding to build out significant parts of applications themselves.
Oh, interesting. That could really change the dynamic between product and engineering teams, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could streamline collaboration quite a bit. One commenter on Reddit even speculated that for certain kinds of projects, vibe coding might lead to a significant reduction in both development time and the size of the team needed.
Wow. Okay, those are definitely compelling potential upsides, speed, accessibility, and maybe smaller teams. But like with any big tech shift, there are bound to be critical perspectives too, right? Potential drawbacks. The Reddit discussions seem to bring up some interesting points there.
Yes, and it's really essential to keep a balanced perspective on this. One key concern raised in those Reddit threads, I think by a user named MoveFast,
Hmm.
was the potential for like over-reliance on AI, especially when you're first learning to code.
Oh.
The argument is that while AI can automate a lot of the coding, mastering the fundamental concepts, the problem-solving skills, that stuff remains crucial if you want to become a truly proficient developer long-term.
So the worry is that if new programmers just lean on the AI crutch too much, they might not build those core foundational muscles.
Exactly that, yeah. And there are also potential challenges, for beginners trying to debug AI-generated code if they don't really understand the underlying programming principles. It could be quite tricky.
I can imagine, like trying to fix a complex machine you didn't build and don't fully understand.
Right. Another point raised was that even with these sophisticated AI tools, strong traditional coding skills are likely still essential for tackling the really complex or nuanced tasks that AI might struggle with.
So AI takes care of maybe 80%, but you still need humans for the tricky 20%?
Something like that, yeah. Seems to be a common sentiment.
And it wasn't just about the technical coding skills either, was it? The Reddit discussions also touched on communication and broader project understanding.
That's right. Even if, say, product managers use AI tools to build parts of an app, they still need to communicate effectively with developers, understand the technical limitations, have some debugging skills. That was pointed out by a user called Sescross.
Right, it's not a total replacement for collaboration.
Definitely not. Plus, there were anecdotal accounts shared on Reddit about AI tools like windsurf sometimes, well, hallucinating or producing weird, unexpected results.
Hallucinating code.
Apparently so,
Mhm.
even for users who said they had no prior coding experience. And there seem to be mixed opinions, comparing windsurf's effectiveness to other tools like Cursor.
So it's clearly not a flawless magic wand that just writes perfect code every time.
Hmm?
Human oversight, critical evaluation, still very necessary.
Absolutely critical.
Now, a huge development hovering over all this has been OpenAI's acquisition of Windsurf. What are the potential implications of that for the future of vibe coding?
Yeah, that acquisition definitely generated a lot of buzz, a lot of discussion in the AI and software dev community.
Ah,
One key area of speculation is around Windsurf's future support for multiple large language models.
because OpenAI has its own prominent models.
Exactly. So there are questions now. Will developers still have the flexibility to choose the underlying AI tech that maybe works best for their specific project? Or will it become more locked into OpenAI's ecosystem?
That's a valid concern. Developers usually value having choices, avoiding that vendor lock-in.
Absolutely. And this acquisition, it could also attract some regulatory scrutiny. Potential concerns about OpenAI maybe gaining too much influence in this market for AI development tools.
Interesting point. Antitrust type concerns.
Potentially down the line. But from OpenAI's side, this move clearly signals their commitment to strengthening their position in this really rapidly growing market and, competing more directly with offerings like GitHub Copilot.
Which ironically already uses OpenAI models through Microsoft.
Right. It's a complex web. But this acquisition, it undoubtedly intensifies the competition in the whole AI coding assistant space.
It's clearly a dynamic and very rapidly evolving area. So to kind of summarize our deep dive into vibe coding here, what are the main takeaways for our listeners?
Well, in essence, I think vibe coding represents a pretty significant evolution in software development. It leverages AI and natural language to let developers and maybe even non-developers focus more on the what and why, the conceptual design, the functionality.
Less on the syntax, more on the intent.
Exactly. Tools like Windsurf and Cursor are right at the forefront, offering these powerful features for AI-assisted code generation and collaboration. And while resources like video tutorials and real-world project insights are popping up to help people learn, it's crucial to remember that a foundational understanding of programming principles, that's still highly valuable for actually using these tools effectively, and especially for troubleshooting them.
Right. And while vibe coding offers this exciting potential for more speed, efficiency, broader accessibility, there are legitimate concerns too about the impact on learning fundamentals and the absolute need for critical evaluation of AI-generated code.
Definitely. And that OpenAI acquisition of Windsurf is a major development that will likely shape how this market evolves.
For sure.
Exactly. So I guess as AI gets more and more integrated into how we build software, it prompts this really fundamental question, doesn't it?
Which is?
How will these ever-increasing capabilities reshape the role of the programmer and maybe the very nature of software creation itself in the coming years? It's definitely something to think about as these technologies keep advancing.
Absolutely. A fascinating question to ponder. We really encourage you, our listeners, to maybe explore some of these tools and resources we've talked about and start forming your own informed opinions on the potential and maybe the perils of vibe coding. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.